Good morning, MacLaren. My name is Mr. Pingel. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck would? Now, if you were that woodchuck, you may have a preference as to what type of wood you would like to chuck. That's what we're going to learn about today. Different types of wood. Now, there's a lot of things that you can learn about trees. I'm going to split them up into two different categories. Those two groups are hardwoods and softwoods. What's the difference? There's a pretty simple way of understanding the difference between hardwoods and softwoods, and it all depends on the type of seed that the tree produces. Hardwood trees, also known as angiosperms or deciduous trees, produce seeds that are covered, that are not open to the elements. And this covering will take the form of a shell or a fruit. These trees, think oak trees, maples, walnuts, hickory, beech trees. Hardwood trees typically have broad leaves compared to softwood trees, and they typically flower. In these hardwood trees, vessels transport water throughout the wood, which give it a more porous and noticeable grain. Typically, hardwood has a higher density and slower growth rate, which makes it stronger and more expensive. Hardwoods also are excellent for heating your home if you have a wood-burning fireplace. They burn hot and they burn long due to their high density. Softwoods are the opposite. These trees, also called gymnosperms or conifers, as we commonly know them as, their seeds are open to the elements. These trees have needles and produce cones. So you can think of a number of examples of these trees, I'm sure. Pine trees, spruce, fir, redwood, juniper, cedar. Softwoods actually make up the overwhelming majority of timber that you see in building. They are cheaper because they're faster growing and they're easy to manipulate. And a side note on campfires, I love burning softwoods when I have campfires because they burn quickly with not nice high flames, and that's typically due to the resin in the wood. And they need constant attention because they burn down quickly, which I like to do. I prefer tending the fire because I love it. So why know the difference between hardwoods and softwoods? Well, when using wood in building projects such as framing a house, building a bench, building a shelf for your Legos, or a nice dining room table, it is crucial to know the difference between the different species of wood that you want to use. Different species of wood can range from being in use from 15 years to 60 years. That is a massive window of time where the color of the wood can fluctuate, cracks can occur, and weathering can take place. So you can see the difference between the grains with this maple and this pine. The maple has much tighter grains. It's a lot more dense than the pine would. So now we're going to go over to the experts in this old house as they explain the uses for different hardwoods and softwoods.
Gotcha. So softwoods and hardwoods, and then of course, more importantly for us, it's when you use them and how you use them.
Exactly. I mean, we use a lot of softwoods in framing houses. For example, a fir 2x4. And there's different grades of lumber. In lumber, you look for the knots. The clearer the wood, the stronger the wood is.
And this is something that we're going to put into a kiln to dry it out, because if we don't, it has a tendency to warp and twist.
Right. You want to get it in as small as it can be into the house because you don't want it to shrink once you put the heat on.
Framing material, but then also some trim material.
Yeah, this is a poor grade of trim. This is a pine, softwood, has a lot of knots. It will twist and warp and everything else.
Yeah.
But now if you look at the harder woods, now here's a piece of maple.
Right, a good example of a hardwood.
Good example of, you can see how tight the grain is. It's relatively heavy. This is a great material for making cabinet fronts, cabinet doors. They actually spin a lot of this veneer off of trees when they're making plywood,
Sure.
because it stains up very nicely, but it won't stain dark.
Right. Then we've got the mighty oak, which is something we also make a lot of furniture out of.
Red and white oak, you see a lot of that. People love the look of oak.
We also
whether
do
it's
it for
red or white.
flooring because it's underfoot.
Yep, and also you can really see the difference in the grain right here.
Yep.
All right, so what happens with this wood, like this oak right here, when you stain it, some of these grains will really be pronounced because, believe it or not, there are parts of it that are softer than the other. And the softer parts have a little more open pores, so they take the stain deeper.
Right. And then within hardwoods, there's different categories, right? So
Yep.
if we were to step it up, they call them sort of fine woods, you know, a little nicer to work with.
Fine woods, a lot of cabinetry made out of walnut.
Right.
In a lot of the older houses, the turnings, the balusters, the newel posts, the railings are made of walnut because it's great material to turn with. Wood turners use this for making bowls and stuff like that. It's great to practice on.
Then we've got the mahogany, which you love to use outside when you're trying to resist the rot in the water.
Mahogany is a great wood to deal with outside. This is black mahogany. They actually make boats out of it. That's how good it is.
Right. And so then after we have the fine woods, we can even go a step further into these exotic hardwoods. And you've got a couple right there.
The exotic heart. Look at this. This is purple heart, all right?
Obviously, where
I
that
wonder
gets
why
the
they
name.
call it that.
Look at that.
All right. Again, now here's zebra wood.
Right.
All right.
Very cool.
These are great accent pieces. Bowl turners, guys that like to inlays and stuff like that. They use this to accent pieces of products that they're making.
So in terms of uses, we have made some furniture projects out of the softer woods, out of the pines, but those are things that we're going to paint, and they weren't really that fussy. If we're making furniture or anything nicer, we're going to be reaching for the hardwoods.
So there you go. Cool stuff to know about hardwoods and softwoods. Now go build something cool. Enjoy your day, MacLaren.